Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for Monday, May 13, 2024. Can I ask Janine to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Janine. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Francis?
Here.
Trustee Schiappa?
Here.
Trustee Pavesa? Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Mattal? Here. Trustee Smith?
Here.
Mayor Grasso?
Here. Thank you. That takes us to presentations and public hearings. The first annual Recognize an Employee celebration. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. So something we started about a year ago was putting a feature on our website called Recognize an Employee. The concept is very simple. We wanted the ability for residents to be able to recognize the good work that our employees have been doing for the residents over the past year. Sometimes there's not a great feedback loop for that, and so we wanted to give the residents that opportunity. I just wanted to quickly mention the recipients of those recognitions over the past year, as well as a few other things that staff had highlighted that was worthy of recognition. I'm just going to read through these pretty quickly. So the first was Kula Mikalopoulos, was recognized for helping several residents, basically saving the residents money when their water bills come in. As we all know, the AMI has started again. She's been very proactive in reaching out to residents when they do have leaks. So she was recognized several times, actually, by residents for her work in that regard. So congratulations to Kula. I also have 3 employees from Public Works: Alex Mazatis, our AWO, Vinny Duval, a new GU2, and Buzz Zina, who's an existing GU2. They were recognized by a resident who had some vibration in their water system in their house, and they were able to diagnose it within a day, get some parts out there to get it fixed and solve the problem pretty quickly. If you've ever had this issue, it has something to do with the water valves are going bad in your system. It's a very obnoxious noise, so they were able to diagnose a fairly annoying problem for this resident without much delay, so congratulations to them. One of them actually came into me, but actually was really Community Development Director Farrell who actually did the work on this one. This resident wrote in to recognize her for her code enforcement and nuisance abatement activities. We have a lot of that around the village, of course. This resident was particularly impressed with her ability to dispatch a number of issues that were going on at this particular property and was very impressed, and so much wrote in to congratulate her on her fine work. And 1 or 2 others. And then we had our Deputy Village Clerk, Shirley Benedict. She was recognized for her outstanding work managing the FOIA process. We've talked about FOIA several times before here at the board level. That is a very complex job. I think Clerk Schaus can attest to that. But she was recognized from a resident who was requesting information, and she was timely responding to them in a very professional manner. So those were employees who were recognized as part of our Recognize an Employee program. I did also want to recognize one other employee whose actions the other day were recognized by the Village of Willowbrook and his actions to help protect a resident in need. I want to recognize GU2 Rich Scherer in our Public Works Department. Rich was actually on break at 7-Eleven over in Willowbrook, noticed an elderly woman who was purchasing a number of gift cards and apparently was in the process of being scammed. Rich had the presence of mind to notice this, call the Village of Willowbrook's we called our own police department first and foremost, who then alerted the Village of Willowbrook, who got there in a very quick amount of time and actually stopped the transaction from happening. That story has actually reached the Illinois Chiefs of Police, and Rich will be receiving their Citizens Lifesaver Award next week from that community organization. So pretty fine work there from Rich, who, despite not being an officer of our department, still took time to recognize the person in need around him and stepped in at the appropriate time to make sure that no harm came to that particular resident at that time. So I just wanted to thank those employees for their assistance, for their hard work, for their fine work, for their dedication and diligence to providing quality services to our community. I thank the public for their patience tonight, but I think it is important to recognize when residents and the public are noticing when our employees are doing well, even when they're just doing their job. So I wanted to extend my thanks to them and just recognize them publicly as part of that program. I hope to continue this annually as part of it and educate the public that that option is available on our website under Community to recognize an employee for their good work. Thank you, Board. Any questions?
Any questions? Let me add to that. I was at a restaurant downtown 2 weeks ago Someone came up and asked me if I was the mayor in Burr Ridge. I said it was, and he said he had been stopped by one of our officers, couldn't tell me who it was, but he lives in Hinsdale, and he said he deserved to be stopped, and he said he is a former policeman, retired, and he said that our officer treated him with the utmost respect, did exactly what the officer should do. He just wanted to let me know that he was properly stopped and how well it was handled. So it's pretty good from a former policeman. So good work. Any other comments? Go ahead.
I think that's what we provide. We're providing a service to our residents, and we do that through our wonderful staff. And that's what makes us a very special place, is the people that work here, serving our residents. That includes us as well. So congratulations.
Yes, Guy?
We're fortunate in this village to have a great staff of men and women who are dedicated to their jobs, dedicated to the village, and dedicated to the residents here. And to take this moment to recognize their work above and beyond the call of duty, I think is least we can do to thank them for their extraordinary efforts. And I thank them personally, and congratulations.
I echo what Trustee Francis says. I think we should recognize them, and we're really grateful and blessed to have such good staff in Burr Ridge.
Well, we're looking forward to the second annual Recognize an Employee. Okay, that takes us to a presentation tonight, the 2023 Annual Police Report. Deputy Chief Loftus, Chief Madden.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Board, for allowing me this opportunity to give you a brief overview of the 2023 statistics and some highlights of the activities of the police department. Overall, last year we responded to almost 30,000 calls for service, 3,500 traffic stops. We partnered with an outside company to revamp and revitalize our policies and procedures and issue them, making sure they're sound, legal, relevant policies that apply to the work we do and the updates that have been coming in the last few years from the state of Illinois. We hired 3 new police officers, a new CSO, and a new records clerk. We expanded our state mandated training with virtual reality training. It's really something to see with the goggles, and it's like another world on the inside the goggles for you. Our organization, knock on wood, is fully staffed, and this is what it looks like after some changes in the makeup of the department over the last couple of years. We have chief, 2 deputy chiefs, an executive assistant, 4 patrol shifts, investigations will be staffed by 3 detectives and a supervisor, a records department, the community policing and code enforcement, which works in conjunction with code enforcement on the village side and code enforcement on the police side, and a community policing officer that handles school events, DARE instruction, special events like Cop on the Rooftop, which is March 17th if we haven't notified anybody, at Dunkin' Donuts in Willowbrook. Please support Special Olympics Illinois. So we are fully staffed for the first time in quite a few years. This slide shows our call for service history. We responded to 29,332 calls for service in 2023. You'll notice a big dip in the form there. Obviously, we experienced a decrease with COVID, and since COVID has let up, we've increased our calls for service over time. Our calls for service are a variety, from animal complaints, helping someone unlock their car, to responding to crimes in progress. We do a lot of, I say this every year that I present this, we do a lot of calls that are of service to people. From something as small as somebody calling to say, I think I left my garage open, can you drive by and look, to helping people at the worst time of their life. And we do that about 30,000 times a year. We respond to two separate types of crimes, property crimes and violent crimes. Property crimes include the offenses of burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. We have them listed there. We took arson off of there because we haven't had an arson reported since 2008. One of our, a lot of reports we get are for theft. These thefts are taking of someone's property, thefts from lockers or vehicles. It went up last year a little bit, but as you can see, it went down last year. Property, as I said, property crime includes the offenses of burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. And I apologize. Can't see the numbers. Residential burglary is a concern for everybody. When we hear about them, we respond and investigate. Residential burglary is when somebody enters or remains in a home, which could include the attached garage, with the intent to deprive somebody of their property or commit a felony. We had 7 reported residential burglaries last year. In years past, we've talked about traveling crime tourism, as it were. Crime groups coming in, traveling throughout the northern suburbs, Burr Ridge, towns like ours, and committing burglaries. We've worked with multiple agencies to try and combat this and try to investigate it further, with some success. And as you can see, the residential burglaries have gone down. Burglary to vehicles are when people break into vehicles, and this is linked with residential burglary because sometimes when somebody enters or remains in your car to try and take something from you, they can hit a garage door opener and enter the car, so then the theft from a motor vehicle or a burglary to a motor vehicle becomes a residential burglary. Other burglaries are such as like from construction sites or construction trailers, landscape trailers. Motor vehicle theft, as we saw around COVID, it went up, it went down, it went up again. And we've talked about this in the past. And when we talk about motor vehicle theft in Burr Ridge, we're talking about every car last year that was stolen was unlocked with the keys left inside in 2022. In 2023, I can report that of the 10 stolen motor vehicles, 9 were left unlocked with the keys inside. 1 was a break-in like we used to see back in the old days. But I reiterate, every car stolen was left unlocked with the keys inside. Violent crime is always a concern. Violent crime, the crimes of murder, sexual assault, robbery, and aggravated battery. All our violent crime total of those categories totaled 9 reports last year. 0 murders, I'm glad to report. 1 report of a sexual assault, 2 robberies, and 6 aggravated batteries. It should be noted that aggravated batteries increased because we're seeing a lot of road rage incidents, display of firearms and road rage incidents. And thanks to the implementation of our flock cameras, we're catching a lot of these. It used to be somebody call and say, I got into a road rage with somebody on the street. and we were not able to find them based on descriptions, but now with the advent of the license plate recognition cameras, being able to go back to the time and place where they say it occurred, follow these cars through the system, we're having great success stopping these and charging people or finding out if they were unfounded or not. Our investigation section has been busy. They were assigned 214 cases last year to follow up on. 47 of them still remain active, and 23 are open pending warrants. 90 cases were cleared by arrest or by other exceptional means. And exceptional clearances include cases in which the offender was identified, but probable cause was not reached, or the state's attorney's office refused to prosecute, or the victim refused to cooperate, or the suspect was arrested in another jurisdiction and we combined our cases, use that case to enhance penalties on somebody to help them choose to plead guilty. Significant investigations in our detective bureau was the burglary theft, motor vehicle theft crew. Detectives tracked and surveilled a crew that was committing a string of crimes through Orland Park, Tinley Park, Mokina, and eventually Burr Ridge. This was a busy night. There were shots fired in Mokina, there was stolen motor vehicles in Orland Park. They came to Burr Ridge and went into somebody's garage and stole a scooter. But based on our information with the license plate recognition cameras, this led to finding the vehicle in Chicago with the help of the Chicago helicopter, the full force of the CPD locating them. The culprits were identified, firearms were recovered. That case finally resolved itself in Burr Ridge, where we got a residential burglary conviction based on the residential burglary here in town. There was a home invasion. The detectives investigated that and quickly identified the suspects that committed it. They were subsequently arrested and charged with multiple Class X felonies, which are the most severe felonies you could charge somebody with in Illinois. They're going to see probably 30 years at least. And they secured charges for residential burglary against 3 known members of an itinerant traveling criminal organization. They committed a ruse entry burglary, and as we've discussed in the past, these types of crimes commonly target the elderly by distraction. Traffic crashes remain an issue in town. When we talk about the calls for service increasing after COVID, people's driving behaviors have gotten worse as COVID has let up. I think it was kind of the Wild West through Illinois with driving habits while COVID was going on, and there was a lack of enforcement throughout the state, and now we're seeing that behavior continue. There's been 286 total traffic crashes within 2023. Of those, 193 occurred on public roadways. 35 of these crashes resulted in injury and 2 were fatal. The first fatal crash involved a vehicle traveling south on 83 from 91st Street, which struck and killed a 29-year-old man crossing the roadway at night. The second fatal crash involved a vehicle making a left turn from Honeysuckle Rose Lane onto the path of a vehicle traveling southbound on Route 83, resulting in the death of a 79-year-old passenger. We are investigating those and trying, when we do, we try to determine proximate causes if there's some engineering solution that can be reached. And we have only just recently taken over that area of Route 83 in the last couple of years. So when we see our traffic and crashes increasing, it also involves the increase based on taking that intersection in. Those crashes were probably always occurring around there, but now they're our responsibility to investigate. So we'll work with Public Works or with DuPage County to see if there's something engineering-wise that can be addressed to help alleviate that, or anything else that can help contribute to that safety. When we do these traffic crash analysis, if we can determine it's people blowing through stop signs, if speed is a factor, we'll assign police patrols to those areas and we'll look for those violations and try and do like an enforcement detail to try and lower those incidents of crashes based on those behaviors. We report use of force to the FBI every year. Our use of force, in 30,000 incidents, our use of force remains low. There were 12 incidents last year that resulted in the use of force. And most of the time that use of force is, as you can see to the right, firearm pointed, not fired. Our firearm has not been fired in the line of duty against a person in years. So they're really safe with this. 12 incidents of use of force out of 30,000 potential calls that they respond to. Our stop sticks, as Trustee Smith pointed out a few weeks ago, are also successful in getting things to stop before they start. Stop sticks are tire deflation devices that we can put out and end a pursuit before it happens or end a pursuit as it's coming through town. We do that a lot. We assist other towns that are flying through, chasing a vehicle, and if we can get those stop sticks out to stop a car, we will do so. A lot better than chasing a car all over the suburbs. We implemented Lexipol policy management. Lexipol is a company that provides policy updates and continual policy updates through their legal review. And when changes to state law or best practices happen, we get updated. We continuously review these against federal and state laws and regulations, court decisions, and evolving best practices, and update as changes occur. When we started this program, we came to you in budget time 23, and you approved us doing this. We started in May of 23 and accomplished this complete overhaul of our policies and procedures in 6 months and got these released to the officers and changed a lot of the way we're doing things based on these recommendations from Lexipol. We implemented a lateral hiring program. We were able to institute a program to hire certified police officers to fill vacancies. These officers submit to the same testing and background investigations as entry-level applicants, and foregoing the police academy decreases the time needed to deploy a trained officer on the road in a solo patrol capacity. It can cut at least 6 months off the time it takes to get an officer out to solo patrol. We've been lucky so far. We hired 3 lateral officers in 2023, and this year we hired 2 more for 5, and we're getting good quality officers to serve the folks at Burr Ridge and serve them well. Our CLIA accreditation continues. It is continual every year. We are subject to a review from an outside auditor, which culminates in the 4th year having an assessor come on site to confirm that we're following the best practices of CLIA accreditation. We are scheduled for July of this year to receive our accreditation award, which should be our 6th reaccreditation. We hired Officer Timothy Anderson this year from Chicago Police Department, Officer John Dennis from the Metro Police Department, and Officer Anthony Harvey from Oak Park Police Department. They come to us with 7 and 10 years experience, fully trained. They have experiences that are not only good for the organization as a whole, but for their peers on the department to see. They've seen things in areas that provide good reference for the officers that work on the department now. We had 3 retirements. I'm sorry I missed one up there, but Sergeant John Helms retired after 21 years of service. Officer Robert Worth retired, also 21 years of service. And the Chief's Administrative Assistant, Cindy Pavlicek, retired with 8 years of experience. I will open it up to any questions you might have.
Any questions? Yes.
Just great job as usual for our police department. There was a figure that came out that does concern me. So we have a lot of resources going to Route 83 for traffic control, trying to limit the number of accidents. Why as a village have we not looked at doing traffic control cameras there at Frontage Road and Route 83. Because I think that would probably do two things. Number one, it would limit the number of accidents occurring, and it could potentially pay for a lot of our police services going into that area.
We're talking about red light.
Yep, red light cameras.
That's a board decision.
Is that our intersection?
Yes.
Yep.
Route 83?
Central, near the Shell, as well as 91st, could both, they would be eligible theoretically to be red light cameraed. But we haven't had that discussion at this point.
Where are we seeing a higher incidence of accidents, on 91st or Central?
It's South Frontage Road, is that the problem?
No, it's Route 83. Speed and lighting, I think, are contributing factors to some of these
So
accidents.
91st
Yeah, 91st,
Frontage.
and frontage.
no, 91st
And-
and 83, and then going south, there's a Honeysuckle Rose Lane coming out of the apartment area.
Oh, okay.
So there's a weird, not intersection there, but a weird crossing that goes into the Oak Hill neighborhood. And if you're trying to come out from the west side of 83 to go northbound, you have to cut across to the two 55-mile-an-hour lanes of traffic, get through the median, and then watch for cars coming northbound. So it's not a good entrance onto Route 83.
But would a camera on 83 be able to capture anything over there? We put it at the traffic.
Are we talking about enforcement cameras? Enforcement cameras would only capture people disobeying the red light. There are numerous cameras that are private in the area that have been very helpful to us solving these crashes and causes of these crashes. And if you go back to 2022 and remember when a young man was hit and killed on Route 83 at Central, the cameras from the Shell were very instrumental in identifying a vehicle and a time of occurrence and able to solve that. So there are private cameras in those areas that are helpful, but red light cameras, in my opinion, wouldn't solve all of the incidents that are occurring because they're occurring because of speed and lighting and not necessarily violating red lights.
One thing we've undertaken, though, we've sent through with a consortium of another number of other towns in the area, we've begun work with CMAP, which is the planning agency for our region, to look at working with the county on some corridor improvements. So there's two different issues there. There's the going through lights at too great a speed, which is a red light solution, and then there's engineering solutions to discuss how sight lines occur, how exterior road entrances occur. That's more the CMAP thing. So we're looking at that right now, looking at grant funding to study that a little bit more in conjunction with another towns in the area. There's two potential paths there. I think the second one is a little bit more doable for us in terms of what we can control, but we're happy to look at anything the board would like us to look at.
So if I'm to understand this right, you think that the roads in that area are just problematic? It's not people necessarily breaking the law, it's a situation which lends itself to a lot of trouble.
In the instance of the pedestrian getting hit, that was at night. And somebody driving south on 83, obeying all laws, is not necessarily expecting a person to come walking across there.
Agreed.
So it's hard to quantify what everyone is doing and try and find a solution to all those problems. And, one accident is one too many. In the big picture, there's not a lot of accidents to say, hey, this is the problem. It's speed, or it's lighting, or it's roadway design. But there are certainly things we look at, and if there's something that we can suggest to DuPage County, or if it's ours, something to help improve the roadway. A case in point is outside of Five Seasons on Madison, where I worked with Dave from Public Works, and they put in those reflectors that have stopped people from cutting through the turn lanes to get to Five Seasons or Walgreens or Beat the Light. So that's an incident of an engineering solution that we agreed upon would help alleviate traffic concerns. So those are things we work with when we do those traffic crash analyses.
Yeah,
Evan, Willowbrook has what, 63rd, Plainfield, and 75th Street with red light cameras. Can we reach out to them, find out what they generate in revenue?
About an 800 grand a year.
How many?
800
800?
Per year.
per year.
1,000?
Each one?
Yes.
Total, $800,000 a year.
Okay.
And is it,
I think we have some cameras to put in.
Now, that's, 4x the volume of what we have, but again, if the board would like us to research red light, we'd be happy to do that.
has it reduced traffic accidents?
I'm simply not an expert on it, I just know that it's a very heavily trafficked corridor.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want the board to draw any inferences on their large revenue source based on what our experience would be, because again, it's different drivers, different types of traffic. I'd want us to do a very thorough analysis of what our expectation would be should we endeavor to make that policy decision, but appreciate the question.
Thank you.
yes, Guy.
I hope that you could reach out to the Village of Willowbrook and see if there was a significant reduction in the accidents at those intersections that were named. Because if there was or is a significant reduction, we might want to take a look at that for these two intersections, 91st Street and South Frontage Road on Route 83, to reduce the number of accidents, reduce the number of injuries. And if there is some fees that we can collect, it's a bonus for the village.
Right.
But the main point here is to improve the safety on traveling on those roads.
Understood.
So, I did have a question though.
Yes,
So if you could turn back to your slide number 12, please. Yes. Maybe it's 13, sorry. 13. Motor vehicle theft. You had mentioned that in 2022, and I recall you mentioning this previously last year, that of the 11 motor vehicle thefts, that all 11 were, and they were unlocked with the key fobs inside. But tonight you said that they were unlocked and left with the keys inside.
Key fobs, I'm sorry,
Key fobs? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a habit with key fobs. You put them in the glove box, you take them out of your pocket, and you put them in the ashtray or whatever. And so we always remind our residents to remove their key fobs, even when they're in the garage, and to lock their vehicles if they're parked outside or in the garage as well. So thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
anybody else? So I had one comment. The mayors get together every 6 weeks or so for coffee Saturday morning, and what's working well in your town and what's maybe not working so well. But one particular village has been policing the parking lots and parking garages in their community. They simply, at night during events, they have an officer go down, just walk and shine a light. And this is a very nice community in DuPage County. And they are finding gun after gun after gun, just, lying on the floor, lying on the seats. They wait for somebody to come to the car. And more times than not, it's not just some resident, it's someone more often than not from the city coming out to enjoy themselves, but leaving weapons that they're not even allowed to have out on the seats. And I was wondering if we look at the parking garage here, or Lifetime Fitness, or County Line Square, or Village Center, do we routinely look inside the cars at night?
We don't have somebody necessarily on foot doing that, but we've also not had the same number of complaints as that community with not only the police finding it now, but there were complaints leading up to that of
Yes.
misbehavior or a reason for them to be doing that now. So when you throw an officer in there looking at the cars and they're doing that consistently, then they're gonna find more things. So we patrol the parking garages, we patrol the downtown area, we patrol the parking lots, and we had, you know, when we're going up and issuing a parking citation, of course, they'll look in the car, make sure there's nobody sitting in there, see if there's anything outstanding. So it is part of our patrol strategy, but on foot, as they do in that town, it's not necessarily like that.
Okay. Well, you might know who I'm talking about, but, and there were a couple of incidents, you're right, that led to them now proactively going through their own parking garages and their own parking lots. And unfortunately, finding too frequently guns left, quote, in the open inside a locked car, but that's not the way guns are supposed to be
Right.
kept, and often, again, by people that weren't even supposed to have the guns to begin with. So just another point. And I think the point the guy was making needs to be reinforced. So 20 out of 21 car thefts in Burr Ridge in the last 2 years, people have left the key fobs in. Only one of the old-fashioned break the window and somehow start the car.
If you follow the news the last couple of years, there were reports of a certain manufacturer's car being able to be overpowered by a USB key, and this was one of those instances.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, thanks for always coming in and keeping us updated and keeping the community updated. It's already 7 after, and I'm going to ask, since I know that there's an attorney here for item 6B, before we get to the other items, can I get a motion in order to accommodate council's time to amend the agenda and call item 6B?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Next item is 6B, consideration of an ordinance approving special use for outdoor dining at a restaurant over 4,000 square feet with the sale of alcoholic beverages pursuant to County Line Square PUD ordinance number A 834-1921, and to amend an existing special use ordinance A 834-06021, Z02 2024, 78 Burr Ridge Parkway, Patty's Sunrise Cafe. Janine, you want to take this one, please?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So as you may recall, at the April meeting, this item was continued until this evening. The board was looking for a little bit more information about the ownership structure of County Line Square as compared to specifically Patty Sunrise Cafe. So legal counsel, who is here tonight, confirmed that the owner of Patty Sunrise Cafe does not have an interest in the overall ownership structure of County Line Square. And I can take any other questions you might have.
So this is a particular interest to me because this is part of the Garber family. I believe now I've gotten my Garber children correct. This is not John, whom I thought was the owner. It's Michael. Michael owns, is the new owner of Patty Sunrise. Also, I think owns one of the sandwich shops. We've been less than happy with the way the Garbers have kept County Line Square. I've been very public about it, vocal about it. We have had them in court more than one occasion, and again recently, last week or the week before? Week before. And there's continuing problems. The good news is they seem finally to be making some major changes in some of the facilities. The most recent one, as I understand, completely replacing the roof over Capri?
Correct.
Okay. And doing enough work, I think, on the rest of the roofs of the other entities to have them now pass or be in good condition. But the Garber family still, Michael is still involved. He's a beneficiary of this trust. And so he also has given me his promise that things will change. It will not be such an adversary process between this board, our code enforcement people, all the time. Staff takes up with this, going to court repeatedly. I think conduct will be more telling than words, because I've heard the same promise before on many occasions. That said, my position on this, I was going to suggest we deny it. But in light of today's meeting in particular, which Trustee Schiappa attended with me, council's representations to me, and I know council well, I think that it would be okay with me, at least if it's okay with the rest of you, to approve this on a temporary basis, whether that's 1 year or 2 years, so that it comes back to us. The prior owner did not have outdoor dining, so this is a new thing for Patty's. And of course, we want them to be successful. At the same time, I want to keep a little bit of a carrot out there for Michael Garber, who apparently is the heir apparent, to make sure the County Line Square stays on the up and up in terms of maintenance and is back to being a good corporate citizen, which in my opinion, the Garbers have not been good corporate citizens in the recent past. And so I would ask you to consider it and maybe make it conditional for a year or two so that it comes back to us, so that we can keep an eye on the progress of how well County Line Square is meeting its obligations to the residents in this community. So with that said, if there's any motions, why don't we, yeah, go ahead.
Evan, is there any outstanding bills or fines or fees for County Line Square?
I would say no. However, we do have a court date that we have to resolve in June, and there are some outstanding citations. I would say, just because there hasn't been a fine rendered in that case, I would say no, there are no outstanding fines or fees due, but we still have some citations we have to resolve. But I feel like we will resolve them at the June meeting because they were about the roof, and the roof has been repaired. Any errors in that resuscitation?
No errors, and just we have requested reimbursement for our roofing inspector.
Correct.
And that was just within the last week, so to my knowledge, that has not been paid yet.
So currently, everything is paid up to date?
Except for that one just recent invoice?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Another problem came to my attention in the last 10 days, I'd say, reports of sewage backup at one of the restaurants and another, actually 2 restaurants, small restaurant and a larger restaurant there. I'm told it's a significant problem in the major restaurant that is going to require some significant work. Since it is, as told to me, a sewage backup, I felt it's necessary that we follow up with that kind of complaint. And so I've instructed staff to do that and to make sure that it gets resolved consistent with the Board of Health for Cook County. And so I don't know if that's going to lead to another problem, but it certainly is a good test to see if the old ways will continue or that there's truly a new sheriff in town and they'll do the right thing and get it done without us having to take them to court repeatedly. But status quo today, everything is current, although there is a court date and a potential issue. Yes, Guy?
So I put this in a big picture perspective. We're asking the Garber family to bring County Line Square up to the minimum standards of safety, maintenance, and sanitation. Okay, we've been asking this for years. Now one of the Garber family members is coming to ask us for something. He's asking for outdoor dining, which we've allowed all of our other restaurants that have asked for it to participate in. So we ask a lot, and we're not getting the results that we expect in a timely manner, to protect the residents and the visitors of County Line Square. So I would support allowing this outdoor dining for a one-year period, having them come back, and I'd like to see some progress on the outstanding issues, including this sewage sanitation issue that you just mentioned. That's an important safety and hygiene factor, safety and hygiene issue at a restaurant where food is being served, and utmost sanitation and hygiene conditions need to be kept and maintained so that nobody becomes sick, becomes ill. So can you also bring us up to date on what we spoke of at this meeting last time, where we spoke about this topic about the restaurants that have some outstanding issues as well?
Correct, for the outdoor dining specifically, their outdoor dining issues.
Those are several issues, but including outdoor dining.
Correct. So for outdoor dining at the other restaurants, ones that were in violation and that was brought to their attention were brought into compliance, but there are some outstanding issues concerning the enclosures, Capri Express and also Johnny Cabs, which are before the Plan Commission in June. I believe it's the June meeting. So those have been continued.
So those two instances are, again, putting something up and then coming back and asking for forgiveness later.
Correct.
Okay.
And
the other
propane tanks, what about the propane tank? There was some outdoor propane tanks. I know Guy knew about them, brought them to our
Correct.
attention.
Yeah, I'd have to follow up on the status of that one. That's more recent.
Okay.
Also, there was a restaurant that had an enclosure on an outdoor dining area that was since been taken down, but their number of tables are in violation, and the fencing wasn't properly executed, meaning it had no separate entrance from the restaurant. It had entrance from the outdoor area. Has that all been brought into compliance as well?
Yes, that is a more recent one that was brought into compliance. I want to say maybe just about a month ago that they did put up that length of fencing that they were required to.
Okay. Thank you for the update.
Yes.
This is a question for council. So, as Janine said, Michael Garber is not the owner of County Line Estate, but he is the beneficiary of his trust. So in your...
A beneficiary.
A
There's
beneficiary.
2 or 3 children
Okay.
at least, but he is a beneficiary, and more importantly, he owns and manages 2 places in County Line Square.
Okay, so, but then eventually, I mean, if eventually he will be part owner of County Line Square.
So my view of it, and Jim is here, he can explain it, legal versus practicality. Bob Garber, from what I can tell, is still running things, which to me is part of the problem. John was part of it and made numerous representations to me and promises that, from my perspective, were never kept. Michael's new to the game and getting the sense the younger, and it's going to be his legacy. So I think he's invested in that sense. I'm also convinced that there isn't a will to sell it, that they want to maintain it. It's almost fully occupied. So I understand the economics of it. So I'm hopeful that Michael is a new face with someone that has a new long-term interest in this center, and hopefully will not cause us the problems his father and his brother did. But Jim, if you want to speak to something, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Jim DeBryan. I represent Michael and Bob for that matter. Michael has no ownership interest presently in the center. He may, by virtue of his parents' death, acquire an interest, but at this point, he has 0 interest, just to clarify that.
Okay,
All right?
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Russ.
Ginny, I have a question. So we're treating this owner separate or differently than other owners of County Line Square. So we're gonna give this owner a 1-year trial. To me, that would kind of spell trouble legally. If we're gonna start getting to the trial periods, then shouldn't we apply that to all our restaurateurs? you know, is that something that if we're gonna do it for one, we should probably do it for all?
I think if the underlying facts are consistent, I think your position would be the way to go. In my opinion, the underlying facts have not been consistent. The Garbers have, again, made promises to us that have never been kept, well, not never been kept, but not kept to the word. We've had to cite them repeatedly. The first letter that we sent out was 35 violations, 40 violations, center-wise. And that was 2 years ago, maybe more, time flies. They are frequently on the agenda for our adjudications. Staff time, precious staff time with a lean staff, inordinate amount of time having been spent on County Line Square violations. Do restaurants have a violation now and then? Yes. Does do we haul people in for their violation from time to time? Of course we do. But not the chronic situation that has prevailed at County Line Square. So normally I would agree with your premise, but I don't think those facts apply here. And I think it's more important that the message be continued, because we have used, in my opinion, up all of our goodwill in the past, and it's just been thrown back in our face. So we need, I love to get the performance. I like Michael's comments today, but proof is in the pudding. And that's why I think we should pass it, but have it come back if necessary, which we've done with other restaurants. And
Yes, we have.
I mean, we did it with Are We Live, we did it for Capri from time to time on other stuff. Johnny Cabs, I think we had one. Certainly Capri Express, we had more than one situation that we continued over time, and they all performed, and then we passed it the next time around. I hope that's what happens with this. It's just on a consent agenda a year from now, and that'll be the end of it. But I think with the track record at County Line Square, they don't stand equal to the rest of the restaurants and the owners.
Mayor, in response to Trustee Smith, is this condition with the consent of the applicant? Because my recollection is a number of the other applicants for which those time limitations were imposed were agreeable to that condition.
Based on my communications with Michael, he said he was disappointed that I would support only a year and he would want it to be 2 or 3 years because he's got an investment in equipment that he has to make in order to do the outside dining. To me, that helps, because I think then if he is going to make the investment, it's more likely that he will then help us and comply with the other things that we want done at the Village Center. So, to answer your question in an obtuse way,
But
he didn't
council's here,
consent.
I mean, if the choice is between a denial or a 1-year comeback for renewal, what's your client's preference?
Well, we did have a meeting today and discussed that, so yes, we'd rather have a temporary special use. We'd prefer it longer than shorter, so we'd look for 2 to 3 years. The mayor is suggesting 1. There's reasons for the extended period. He alluded to them, right? So it's a capital expenditure. It's gonna take time to recoup. And the whole idea behind here is to have Michael, who's really not an owner of the center, assist in bringing the center into compliance. So he's sort of a third party to that discussion, but related to the owner.
But but he is the new face and the new voice, and he put himself out there saying, things will change, come to me. Think we even exchanged cell phone numbers today, Michael's cell phone number. He clearly made it plain to me and Tony. Tony could certainly speak for himself that he is the new person that's going to get things done at County Line Square. Agreed?
Agreed. And Michael did express that he wanted to reset the relationship between County Line Square and the Village of Burr Ridge. And so that's what he said. Now we have to see if he can prove it. So that's why I am in agreement with a 1-year variance for this ordinance.
I'm gonna add that I was there over the weekend, and I was really happy to see the same employees are still working there. Restaurant was busy, food quality was no different than what it was as Patty's, so they're doing it right there. One other comment, living trust, not our business,
Agreed.
not our place to say. So, that's it.
Well, just to be clear, Michael made it clear to us that he's the new guy in charge of everything, not only Patty's, but the other stuff that we have him going to court on. He asked us to come to him on any tenant problems in County Line Square. So the trust thing was I only asked the question, just to be very clear about all of this, so that it wasn't some other persons, for example, I think Evan asked it, was there a management company maybe that's not doing what they're supposed to do? So the idea around the trust was nothing more than to find out who is actually making the decisions. And it's a legality, where they all lie and who's a beneficiary. That was not the reason for the questions. The reason for the questions were who was making the decisions. And was clearly it was made clear to me that Michael now is the person to go to get things done.
Good to know.
And that was the reason for the questions.
There's no outstanding violations at the present time.
I just want to be clear. Earlier you asked about fines and fees. There are outstanding violations that may result in a fine, but that has not been adjudicated at this time. That will come up in June. They do not owe, aside from the invoice, which they have time to pay, of course, they do not owe any money on any adjudication-related issues that haven't been finalized at the judge at this time.
And the one that is pending is the roof citation, but that's been repaired. I mean, could an adjudicator impose a fine under those circumstances? Yes, but more than likely, compliance was the goal, and that's occurred.
Correct.
So for the record, 1 year, you'd rather get 1 year than be turned down, correct?
Yes.
So I motion staff to prepare an ordinance. Oh, no, this is the ordinance, right? The ordinance.
No, this would be the approval. We directed staff to.
You're gonna need to make a motion to amend the ordinance to add that condition, though.
All right, so I motion to amend the ordinance to add a time limit of this ordinance for 1 year, approving a special use for outdoor dining at a restaurant over 4,000 square feet with the sale of alcoholic beverages pursuant to the County Line Square PUD Ordinance A 8341921, and to amend an existing use ordinance A 8340621, Z02 2024 78 Burr Ridge Parkway, Patty's Sunrise Cafe.
So the motion is to adopt the ordinance with the added condition of a 1 year duration. Will that, I have to ask a question. Do you want to specify a date when that 1 year is up?
We have traditionally done it 1 year from today.
Okay.
The approval of the ordinance.
First meeting in May of 2025.
Okay. Does everybody understand that? Then we need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment? Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. Okay, that takes us back to our original agenda. That's the consent agenda at this point, item 4. An item shall be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any one trustee or anyone present at the meeting. Those items marked with an asterisk are considered to be on the consent agenda. A roll call shall be taken on the approval of the consent agenda and recorded in the minutes as an omnibus vote. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it will be discussed by the board, open for public comment, and voted upon during the meeting. 5 minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of April 22, 2024. B, receive and file storm water management committee meeting of April 23, 2024. That takes us to 8 considerations. A, approval of an award of contract to SKC Construction of West Dundee, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $60,000. B, approval of a raffle license for Advocate Children's Hospital's golf outing fundraiser on June 3, 2024, at the Edgewood Valley Country Club. C, approval of vendor list dated May 13, 2024 for the fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $505,766.27 for all funds, plus $224,518.37 for payroll period ending April 27, 2024, for a grand total of $730,284.64. And D, approval of vendor list dated May 13, 2024 for fiscal year 2025 in the amount of $11,964.66 for all funds, for a grand total of $11,964.66. Can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda, 5A and B, 8A, B, C, and D?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion at the board level? Any public comment? Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. Takes us to 6A, consideration of an ordinance amending sections 2.64 and 2.98 of the municipal code of the Village of Burr Ridge. Evan?
I've been asked to
Counsel?
take this. This is an ordinance that amends the attendance by meetings at village board meetings by trustees who are absent under the 3 conditions, actually, there's 4 conditions provided in the statute for the basis for being absent but able to attend a meeting. Now, this ordinance specifies those reasons. It provides for notice to either the mayor or the administrator by the absent trustee or mayor if the mayor was absent. And then those individuals are to notify the village clerk of the trustee's absence, and then it requires a vote by the board, a majority, to allow that absence. I also added provisions amending section 2.98, which is the village's code of conduct. There was some language in that code of conduct that spoke to representatives. That's a defined term in that ordinance. That would include elected officials and members of boards and commissions or committees, that they would commit to attending meetings either in person or remotely. That language, for whatever reason, conflicted with the notice requirement that I just went through to notify either the mayor or the administrator. And so I've cleaned that up. That section now only applies to members of committees and commissions. Village board has its own rules.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody on the board? Can we get a motion to approve an ordinance amending sections 2.64 and 2.98 of the municipal code of the Village of Burr Ridge?
So moved.
Second?
Any other comment or questions of any of the trustees? Any public comment? Any public questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, the motion passes. That takes us to item 9, public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, can we do reports and communications now?
Yes, I think we're gonna adjourn into closed session,
Right.
correct? Yes.
So let's go to item 11, reports and communications. Anita?
All right, well, this is the final reminder for Armed Forces Day on May 17th. That is this Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It will be at the Village Center. This will be a very family-friendly, kid-friendly event. There will be the Jack Shaw's Patriot Award. The West Suburb Concert Band will be there. There will be letter writing to the troops. Uncle Sam will be walking around on stilts. There will be old-fashioned popcorn, blue snow cones, and you can visit the booths of the local nonprofits and Boy Scouts of America. And then the concert series will start on 6/6, that is June 6th, Thursday, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. every Thursday. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Two things. One, a new place opened in Burr Ridge in the Village Center. I think it's Bar Poca Madre. And it's Mexican food. Nice little intimate place. The bar looks like a neat place to get a beer. I'm actually a fan of Modelo Negra, and it's on tap. So I had a couple when I was there. So had one Saturday and had one Wednesday. Went around and looked at the new entertainment district center down there. I'm having a short little social meeting with the three owners of the Village Center next week, just to catch up, find out a few questions I have, and I'll report to all the trustees as a result of that meeting. And I also pleasantly was surprised to go into Pella and see the place humming. So I thought that was a very good sign. I know they got off to a rough start, but all the private rooms had parties in them. The back area was fairly full. There was music. And there's been a little request by the owners there, and actually another of our restaurants in town, about allowing outdoor cigars after a certain hour, consistent with whatever rules we have. And I told both restaurants I would be checking out to see if that's allowable and whether or not we could do that. They think that it would spur some business on some of the outdoor patios in the summertime. As long as it's not obnoxious to others, we'll look into it and see if that can be done. So that's my reports for tonight. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn and to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C1.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Scappa?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0, that motion passes. We're in closed session.